So it looks like we're not going to have a Transformer Tuesday today. Hasbro, they really gave us quite a bit last week. And if you were in the Transformer Slag podcast live stream, you know just how much news we had last week. It's pretty crazy. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do a Transformer Slag podcast Patreon listener question. And it's a really good one, too. It goes through a little bit of the history of some accessories and stuff. So let's jump into that. If you want to be a Transformer Slag podcast Patreon member and help support the podcast and let us know we're doing a half-decent job keeping you educated, entertained, and informed on everything that's going on in the Transformer world, helping you make sense of what's going on with the craziness with the robots in disguise from a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. Again, patreon.com/Protoman, or check the pinned comment or the description below. What does it get you? It gets your name in the end credit scroll at the end of every segment moving forward. It gets you access to the exclusive Transformer Slag podcast Discord, where we talk about the news, break the news, talk about lore, break the lore, and of course, share sales, share deals, save money on our hobby, most importantly in this crazy time of inflation and crazy prices. Always letting you know about all the best deals and how to save money as a Transformer fan. And of course, depending on what tier, you might get a little something in the mail. Little something also that I'm going to have to talk about this Saturday is going to be a big reveal, so be sure to check that out on Saturday for the live stream. And depending on what tier also, you might get a chance to ask the Patreon listener question here on the pod. And we have one today, and it's a really good one from Tristan Lightyear. And Tristan Lightyear wants to know, hey, Proto Man, I have a Patreon listener question for you. Which Transformer toy has the most projectiles? I'm guessing it's probably going to be a G2 figure like Laser Optimus Prime or G2 Dreadwing. But I thought I might ask you because you might be able to think of something else. Also, what was the last figure to have missile launchers or projectiles? I feel like we haven't got one in a while, and I kind of miss them. Thank you for everything you do, Tristan Lightyear. Well, thank you, Tristan. Thank you so much for the question. And this is a good one because this is something I had a discussion like this, man, must have been almost 10 years ago, because there was already a shift that was kind of happening within the hobby on what was happening with projectiles and that kind of stuff. And I'll kind of get into that later in the segment. But let's go to your first part of your question. So what has the most projectiles? Now, let's go over the two that you already proposed here, Laser Optimus Prime and G2 Dreadwing. Now, Laser Optimus Prime, he's one of those cases where he's these playset kind of characters, where the actual robot itself doesn't have any projectiles. It's all in the playset. And in the case of Laser Optimus Prime, his trailer opens up and has a rack of 5 missiles that are spring-loaded. Actually comes with 10, but you can only put 5 on there, just so you don't lose the other ones. So you have 5 spring-loaded missiles. You got a disc launcher that uses a pressure missile gimmick, and there's 4 it loaded in that one. So there's 5 right there, 4 in the missile in the disc launcher. And then he has an air missile launcher where you push down on this air pump and it shoots a missile also, and it's foam. It's kind of like a Nerf gimmick going on there. And that one, it comes with 2, but only 1 could be loaded. So right away, his base mode is rocking those 5 and then the 4 and then the 1, 10 total. And I will say this right now up front, nothing even comes close to that in that 10 total. And I mean, but to be fair, it's all in the trailer. You know, it's not actually on the Transformer figure itself. It's all in the base. And I mean, like, I'm reminded of even stuff like, G1 UK European exclusive Thunder Clash. Fantastic, fun little figure. His base mode opens up and has this crazy missile rack that has like all these little missiles on them, like 8 of them. And they feed into this slot that just you could rapid fire them over and over. Kind of also like a little bit of a Nerf kind of gimmick. And it was so crazy, that gimmick, that when they repainted and retooled that same mold to use Machine Wars Optimus Prime, they actually got rid of it and just put 2 spring-loaded missiles because it was too crazy. It was too nuts. It's so cool, and it's such a shame that it got tooled out ultimately in the end. And it's kind of fragile because a little bit of GPS on that figure too. But still, either way, that's another example of that. So what we're going to try to do is, obviously Laser Optimus Prime is number 1 with those 10 loaded on there, even more when you factor in what's on the side in case you lose it, because he actually has 10. He actually has 5 extra missiles, and the extra air missile, the foam missile. So let's look at stuff that actually has it on their person, on their body, because that's what will be our real journey here today. And so we'll start with what you said, G2 Dreadwing. So G2 Dreadwing has that big, chain gun cannon on his shoulder, and that holds 6 missiles that are pressure-based. They actually don't lock in like a traditional spring-loaded missile. They fall out very easily. You just kind of twist the back of the turret and it just shoots them out. So he has 6 of those. And then technically, and I'm not going to count it, but technically, because he comes with Smokescreen, and Smokescreen comes with little 2 missile launchers that are spring-loaded, you could technically put them in Dreadwing's hands also, but those are intended for Smokescreen. They're packed together. That's always been the intent. So I'm going to just give those 6 turret missiles, and that's it for Dreadwing. So it's not Dreadwing. He has only 6. When you move up, when you move up the ladder a little bit there, we go to Transformers 2010, a.k.a. Hunt for the Decepticons, a.k.a. Reveal the Shield, that kind of era of Transformer product. In the Transformer 2010 line, there was a deluxe class figure called Hailstorm. He was repainted later into a character called Mindset. Hailstorm was an homage to a obscure G2 character that also had a huge missile rack on top of his head. And so Hailstorm is one of these characters. He has this double missile rack, and each one of them holds 4 missiles. So he has a total of 8 missiles, and they're all pressure-based missiles, and he has 8 of them, and it's crazy. And what a wacky, cool figure. If you could get the Hailstorm version specifically, because I know the other one's called Mindset, and that's supposed to be the homage, but Hailstorm has the correct color scheme. So if you could pick between the blue and the green one, get the green one. That's like the true homage to the original character in G2's comics. So, but yeah, he has 8. So right away we're at that guy. Oh, he's got 8 now. So he's in the lead right away. But after going through everything, number 1 is not a G1 character or a G2 character. Number 1 toy to have the most projectiles on his person. And he can even hold more. It's pretty crazy, this one. And we're going to be talking about Mr. Number 1 himself. We're talking about Beast Wars Transformers Ultra Class Depth Charge. Now, Depth Charge, man oh man, what's going on with this bounty hunter? Walk-in one-man army. So first of all, he has his Cyber Shark gun. His Cyber Shark gun has 2 missiles on it, 2 little spring-loaded missiles. Then in his chest, he comes with stock in his chest, 7 launcher discs from his chest. So right away, there's a total right there of 9 projectiles on his person, just right there. But being someone who, like me, I've bought and sold so many depth charges throughout the years and stuff and end up with a whole bunch of extra accessories, I learned throughout the years that he could actually hold up to 9 discs in his chest, which then would pump him up to 11 projectiles overall, if need be. Now, granted, that's not what comes stock with him, but if you just had 2 more discs, he could shoot 11 out of his chest, 2 out of his gun, crazy stuff. He'd technically be more than even our Laser Optimus Prime. So I'm going to give it to Depth Charge. Even Depth Charge has 9 on his own, so he's already above everybody. But he could even do a little more if you just had a little bit of extra accessories. If you had 2 Depth Charge and you just steal 2 discs from him. Or alternatively, get his Universe 1.0 repaint and then steal 2 discs from that one and then throw it in there. You know what's funny about that? And I might as well mention here. I always found that Depth Charge kind of has the Jango Fett colors from Star Wars, and the Universe 1.0 repaint that we got afterwards had the Boba Fett colors. I've always felt that between the two. I don't know if that was done on purpose, if it was intentional, considering, Star Wars and Kenner and Hasbro, they're all under the same roof with Transformers. I wonder if that was the case. And they're bounty hunters. Found that very interesting. Found that very, very interesting, that coincidence. But either way, that's kind of my answer. I'm going to go with that. And again, it's a fantastic figure, Depth Charge already. I mean, on top of the double spring-loaded gun, on top of the chest firing stuff, he also has his tail that transforms into like a sword spear. He has that cool triple changer gimmick, so he could turn into like the hovercraft mode, the manta ray mode, and then the cool robot mode that has almost like the Batman kind of wings to it. Fantastic figure. Absolutely fantastic figure. So I'm going to go with Depth Charge. Let's go into the second part of your question, though, which is what has happened to missile launchers and who was the last figure to have it? Well, here's the thing. Missile launchers are still around in Transformers. They still are. We're just not really paying attention to it because they've shifted where we see them. It used to be for the longest time we would see missile launchers in our main line of Transformers. Hasbro's Aaron Archer used to always say that the spring-loaded stuff, spring-loaded missiles and everything like that, is very toyetic. It's a very play feature kind of thing aimed at a younger demographic and a younger audience. It's a play feature, a playing feature. And you would see that when Transformers was still marketed as a younger demographic kind of toy line, even when it was like Unicron Trilogy and stuff like that. It was filled with it. But as Hasbro started recognizing that Transformers really is, primarily being purchased by adults and stuff like that, the more adult-aimed lines shifted to not have that toyetic spring-loaded feature and instead had other stuff like blast effects or, stuff for good photography or just better paint. And you see that now with our Transformer Siege line, Earthrise, Kingdom, Studio Series, and of course Legacy today. Now, it's kind of one of these things where, like if you had Siege Commander class Jetfire today, he wouldn't have all those blast effects and all that stuff. He would have a whole bunch of spring-loaded missiles, like all the past Jetfire toys that came before that one, whether it be the Generations Leader class one or before that the Classics one. It was always that kind of thing where he always had spring-loaded missiles because it worked with all those guns and stuff he had and cannons. But now it's all about blast effects and the photography of it for adult collectors. But that being said, it still exists today, just for different demos of Transformers. When you look at the Cyberverse line, when you look at all the younger demo lines, that's where it resides. That's where it sticks around. And if I had to pinpoint in our, main line, right? Like stuff aimed at us, right? When was the last time we kind of had it and then it started to disappear? The John Warden era. When John Warden came around with Combiner Wars moving forward, that's when they started to disappear. Because the beginning of Combiner Wars was the last time we really saw spring-loaded missiles on these mainline figures. Because you had the IDW Leader class Megatron, which later was repainted, retooled into Armada Megatron in Combiner Wars. That had a spring-loaded missile. The only other one that in that line that I could count, and even then it doesn't really count, was there was a Thundercracker, a Starscream, and a Skywarp Leader class that also had spring-loaded missiles. But that was a repaint retool of Jetfire that came out during the Generations era from before it. So it just kind of got a repaint retool and was packaged as a Combiner Wars figure. But literally Combiner Wars, it was that Armada Megatron and the IDW Megatron mold that had it. And then moving after that point, everything would just be other stuff. It would just be, guns and having fun with this and that and blast effects and everything. That's when stuff started to really be aimed more at the collector market. And when you look at the movie stuff, even on the movie side of things, before we had Studio Series, the last one that really had it was Transformers The Last Night. We had characters like Deluxe Class Strafe, one of the Dinobots. Not Dinobots, but I guess Dinobot, dinosaur thingy. He had spring-loaded missiles, He had that too. And then afterwards we have Studio Series and then there's that split off. We have Studio Series for the adult collectors, and then we had the Bumblebee movie line for the younger demo. And the Bumblebee movie line had that spring-loaded kind of stuff like Cyberverse and everything. A different era of spring-loaded, which I'll get into in a moment. But, when we look at our Studio Series, it's all blast effects. None of that stuff really exists anymore. The new era of spring-loaded, which we have with Bumblebee movie, what we have with Cyberverse, and we're probably going to see more and more when we get to even to like the Rise of the Beast stuff when the younger demo toys come out. You have spring-loaded gimmicks that are projectiles that don't leave the projectile's gun. So you have it shoots a missile, but the missile stays in the barrel, it just pops forward. You have a laser beast that pops out of the chest, but it stays locked in there. So now you have those kind of spring-loaded gimmicks as opposed to stuff that fires away and then disappears into the ether. So there is still spring-loaded missiles and stuff. They just don't leave the barrel. But that's not to say that that stuff is completely gone either, because then when we look at the even younger demographic of Transformer products, fast food toys, they're still doing that, still to this day. Just Cyberverse, the last Cyberverse Happy Meal, the kids meal that they did with Burger King, had that kind of stuff. The Cyberverse one, there was a Spark Armor Bumblebee that had missiles that came out of it and that were spring-loaded. Primarily the reason for that, both with McDonald's and with Burger King, is because now there's no more emphasis on transformation. These toys don't transform anymore. So they have to have a play gimmick somehow, and that's where you're going to go. You're going to go with a rotor blade that you rev up and it projectiles and flies up in the air, or you're going to have a missile that comes out, or you're going to have like a spring-loaded car in car mode of Bumblebee that's spring-loaded on a spring-loaded key and everything, right? That so he rolls forward. They're going to have to do stuff like that because they don't want to invest into the tooling and everything of a transformation and the engineering. You just have a Bumblebee figure, he shoots a missile, the missile flies out. So you still see that today. And again, as of I think it was 2020, last year, 2 years ago, with the Spark Armor Cyberverse stuff, I saw that one. And I'm pretty sure there's something else too I'm forgetting. I know because we had lenticular stuff too, but we're probably going to see more of that in the future. So I don't think it's going to go away. It's just that where our eyeballs are right now as Transformer fans, we're looking at our generation's kind of legacy kind of stuff and our Studio Series kind of stuff, and of course our Masterpiece stuff. And we don't see that stuff there because that's not for us. But if you look at the kiddie stuff, I guarantee there is going to be something at some point within possibly the next kid series, like maybe Earth Spark is probably going to have something, or alternatively on the flip side of it, whatever the Rise of the Beast, line is going to have, they're probably going to have some kind of spring-loaded something, some kind of gimmick, and it's still going to be around. It will be. It's just it's not aimed at us because it's a toyetic kind of thing. So it never really went away. So that's kind of that answer in that. But I did kind of include a few examples of when it kind of went away for adult collectibles in a lot of ways. So look at Combiner Wars and look at the Last Night. That was kind of the shift. That was into our new era that we have today. So again, I'm going to go with Depth Charge, #1 for the most of stuff, unless you want to count the play set trailer of Laser Prime from G2. And yeah, hope that answers that. A little long-winded, but hope you guys learned something today. And it's kind of a fun question, just because it kind of gives us an idea of our hobby and some of the fun stuff that is involved with it. And if you want to ask a question like Tristan Lightyear, again, patreon.com/Protoman, or check the pinned comment or the description below. And yeah, just help us support the podcast, keep the lights on, and let us know that we're doing a half-decent job keeping you entertained and, having interesting conversations like this about our hobby. I'll talk to you guys soon. Hopefully we'll have some more cool stuff this week. I know we have a few reveals that'll be coming this Saturday, but maybe we'll have some other stuff the rest of the week. Talk to you soon.